I'm letting you hold on. All right, we're gonna can start and then
We'll let it in, just, yeah, that's all.
yeah, and you put the
Yeah, yeah.
All right, hi everybody. Welcome. I haven't talked in this configuration yet. We've done that, and we've done that. So this is good. So I'm going to be like I'm playing tennis. Don't mind me if I turn back and forth. We are very honored to have Matthew Gilbert here. I'm very excited. We met last year, 2 years ago.
A year and a half ago.
A year and a half
almost
ago.
2 years.
So I saw their piece or a few of their pieces in Newburgh and was just taken with the work. And so I contacted them, and so we've been in this process ever since. So I'm really thrilled that your work is here. So I want to introduce you to our monitor as well, who's going to moderate the artist talk today. So Hanny Ahern is a contemporary artist currently living and working in Beacon, New York. Her work takes a media agnostic approach, that's a mouthful, media agnostic approach to constructing bodies of work across traditional media, emerging technology, and household and industrial items, often coming together in site-sensitive installations. Her work has been featured in solo and group exhibitions, notably Bitforms and Brick Arts in New York City, Strong Room, Inc., Ann Street Gallery, and a visit in the Hudson Valley. She has been an artist in resident in Idea Lab in New Rochelle, artist in Vacancy in Newburgh, I love that name, a guest studio in Akureyri, Iceland. She has facilitated community and educational programs in SBK Collaborative in Isiolo, Kenya, Dia Beacon PowerPrint in Brooklyn, and she has received her Art Foundation diploma from Cambridge Arts and Sciences in the UK, her undergraduate degree from Bennington College, and master's from Interactive Telecommunications program at NYU's Tisch School of Arts. So we're in good hands. And Matthew Gilbert is our artist, and their work, Matthew is a sculptor, textile artist raised in Brooklyn and currently based in New York's Hudson Valley. They received their BA in Film Studies and Studio Art from Wesleyan University, Middletown, Connecticut. Their work has been exhibited nationally and internationally with notable exhibitions at the Dorsky Museum of Art, Wassaic Project, Nada Lunch, and Outside Art Fair. They have held residencies across the U.S., including at the U Cross Foundation in Wyoming and the Munson Art in Maine. Gilbert has been awarded the Emerging Artist Fellowship from Ann Street Gallery in 2024 and the Pocantico, see, I get all these hard words today, sorry. Pocantico Prize from the Rockefeller Brothers Foundation in 2026. Their work has been featured in the Village Voice, Two Cuts of Paint, in Pulse Magazine, and I want to just do a shout out to Chronogram. So Chronogram has a beautiful article right now, and so check that out, and I will step aside and let them begin.
Okay, so Matthew asked me to moderate the talk, which I was happy to do because I think conversation is more excited than monologue in general. And I have the privilege of working near Matthew. Our studios are near each other, and it's a special type of colleagueship in the wild to have an artist that you can talk to regularly about the daily life of being an artist. So I have that angle with Matthew, which is a privilege, but I know that you guys don't. So I'm doing my best to ask things that I might know a little bit about and also shake things up. So, first of all, Matthew. Has everybody seen this show? Had time to check out the show? I feel like maybe you can while we're talking, just putting it out there in case you haven't. Can you talk to us about the title of the show?
Title.
Pretend Till It Hurts.
Yeah, I feel like there's kind of two meanings. Well, there's like, so many meanings, obviously, but I had two thoughts behind it. One is my work hopefully has like a playful language. There's kind of references to like toys, like a truck and like a castle and the like Fisher-Price kind of barn. So I wanted to kind of allude to that, and then also the kind of more violent undertones in my work and kind of blur like, the playfulness and the violence, which is just, it's a little like maybe nail on the head, but whatever it's talking about. And it's also this like melodramatic fantasy. I feel like my work has definitely an element of imagination and kind of maybe like darker imaginings and wanting to play with that. And I feel like I have this tendency to kind of invent these scenarios and think of like the worst case scenario for something. And so the title's about that and kind of my inclination to like pretend and make up this like insane situation or feeling until it's like so unbearable that it's now like this like real burden I have that I've like completely invented for myself.
So it's like somewhere between like a fear and a memory of the future, or all of that.
Yeah, like an invented fear almost, like this like fake fear that I've now pushed too far and now I'm actually scared.
The titles seem important too.
Because of the pieces.
To name a few, yeah, because the piece, it's almost like an album, like the show title, and then the pieces. Is there any specific titles you'd want to speak to? Like Ache of the Window
Ache of the Wind on the Window. Yeah, so a lot of the lyrics come from song lyrics. A lot of the titles come from song lyrics. And a lot of the artists that I'm referencing are, well, I guess it doesn't matter so much what they're referencing, but I think my titles tend to lean into the more melodramatic and kind of over the top, because I feel like it adds a sense of not like irony, but kind of like maybe like irreverence or kind of like ridiculousness to the melodrama, that once I push it to that kind of too far, almost like ridiculous, I'm kind of stumbling on my answer, but yeah, enjoying the melodrama and kind of using that as almost like a self-deprecating thing, where it's like, I know it's super dramatic, I know it's kind of like these like, these morbid scenes that are like ultimately not that graphic or not that actually violent, but I'm like almost pretending it is, kind of losing the question, but.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, and when you're talking about it, it makes me also feel like, not just like the name of the song, but like, well, a sense of the absurd, but it speaks, but also like one chord onto like a cello or something really like, like one strike of a single chord or a bass or something, because the moments are so distilled. Okay, I want to do a little more biographical information because I think this is interesting. So you're from Brooklyn and you live in Newburgh, which is upstate, technically from a Brooklyn perspective, but not a super rural part of upstate. But it's still kind of urban. And well, your imagery are from its own world, right? Like how does your location, where you're from and where you live, and then all the way to these like, from cornfields to these kind of like broken fence landscapes, how does that influence the kind of psychic space that you come from and bring us into?
I feel like there's kind of two effects of that, and the first being, growing up in the city, driving was always this kind of like mystical thing that I didn't really have access to, and it was kind of like the ultimate freedom. And so I just had this like really romantic idea of like driving across the country, and like I just like always loved road trip movies, but I was just like stuck in this little apartment in like the concrete jungle of New York. And so I think I have this kind of, driving is still this kind of like super like sort of magical thing to me, where you're kind of like you're in your own little compartment, and it gives you this kind of like safety net to view other things. So I feel like a lot of my work is, there are these landscapes, but there's this kind of, the viewer is almost like either literally like in a truck, or like the distance and the framing is such that it's like they're witnessing it from this like distance that's both like comforting, and it's like getting a little off topic, but so there's this sort of interest in driving that I have still because of just this romanticism of that. And then the reality of actually now being a driver and like seeing the world more so, and seeing the reality of what America like actually is versus your idealized version. And so I think a lot of the work is confronting kind of crumbling architecture and this idealized version of what, like, you know, things should be, and but there's actually something wrong, like the further you look. It's like this like house, but it's like crumbling and falling in on itself. Like it should be this beautiful architectural display of like, I don't know, human achievement, but then it's like, actually there's like trash somewhere. I mean, these pieces don't have trash, but I have pieces where there's like just like litter in the corner or something. So I feel like a lot of that is also seeing the country from this like disillusion, like so this sort of like, oh, what I thought I'd find, it's actually like everything's falling apart. So I'm playing with both of that, both like the wonder of it and then the kind of like disillusionment of my childhood fantasies
of driving. Because you can see like the motifs, like there's obviously things I want to cover, and anyone who wants to help me here, because the beam of light, right? Like there's often the driving is there, whether it's like the headlights that are like the first witness, which then brings us to this like right to the viewer. But I don't want to bundle. I want to distill this because there are some like very clear motifs. Like even though I want to get to like the installation versus the images, but before the application, there are like this language of symbols that are like concurrent, starting with definitely the headlights. There's usually something broken, telephone poles, fire, shadows, bricks, windows, castles, trucks. I'm not done. Does anyone want to help me?
Just new to all this, and I'm loving it. I keep thinking movies.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, because one of my questions. So Matthew, you studied, right? Like this is very much sitting in the space of visual arts and sculpture, but you studied film, but not necessarily to be a filmmaker, right? Like this is kind of your application, your adaptation. Like, can you speak to that?
I feel like it stems from, for me, my like interest in art making is storytelling. I feel like other people, maybe it's like exploration of medium and like other things like that, but for me it's very much a story. And the closest like visual art, like film and visual art, there's obviously so much overlap there. So I think I approach all my work as if I'm a filmmaker and I'm thinking of like staging the scene and like what elements within the frame, which is like mise en scène is like the term, but like what can I include there to tell the story without the people in it. So it's very much like the remnants of the actions. So like, depending on the scene, I mean, it's like we're stumbling upon something that like sort of just happened. So like in this one, you have the chair's falling over and the lamp is broken and the window is actually open. So I sort of see this scene as like a kind of, there was like a fight and then someone like escaped. So it's like, I really do approach my work as like, what is the scene? And then what elements can I include to sort of tell that story? Which is, I feel like more like a film or like literary approach to art making versus like a more material process base. And I think that's prevalent in like all the work. And then I think that manifests in slightly different ways where the work on the wall become like film stills, and then the sculptures are more like installation and like sets where it's like you can picture like someone like interacting with it, but they're ultimately still just like a freeze frame of a movie. Which
Yeah.
I love your work so much. Thank you for this talk and for coming to Saugerties. Do you intentionally leave out humans?
Yeah, so the human question, I mean, the first time I actually included one was in this piece, which was like the shadow of the person.
human.
And it's a couple reasons. Well, one is I'm interested in this like moody somberness, and having like no people sort of adds another layer of like kind of desolation. But then also, since there's no people in there, it becomes our kind of action, and it's almost like our witnessing of it is then like almost the instigator of the thing. Like it's like if I put someone like in this room, that person is the one that did it. Whereas if we're there and we stumbled upon it, it's almost like now it's kind of like our fault for seeing it. So there's like that element, and then also then like we are the film camera and wanting to kind of draw attention to that witness relationship to the art. So yeah, I feel like if then there's a figure, that figure then becomes like the point of view in the frame, but I want it to be the camera. I want it to be this kind of like recording of the incident, as opposed to, or because it's recording, the act of recording then becomes participation.
That's brilliant, because like in the post-apocalyptic scenes, I mean, it makes you wonder not only what happened here, but what's gonna happen next, and
Right.
that like invites participation.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, you become like, it's up to you what happens next, whereas definitely.
You very much feel like dropped into, you're implicated, or it also brings up like if a tree fall, like you're the one that heard it, suddenly you're the one witnessing the tree fall, and then it's like, who, is anyone else in here? These questions are great because a lot of them are things that I was hoping, it shows how much it's communicated, because that's what I was thinking about. Like, okay, when I encounter this work, I feel like I'm dropped into being the main character in like a video game, and I'm just at this point, or I'm looking for an abandoned building, or I'm like a fugitive, and like there's this feeling of I am the human here, right? Like I'm the human in this work.
Thank you for that, because I wondered if I was missing references because I don't know video games.
Oh yeah, right. Or just that sense of like, right? If you didn't know the game and you just kind of dropped in and you have that POV perspective, it very much is. And also with the installations being, you guys got me thinking though, like, it's almost like with the film still approach, which you guys should read the chronogram article. It's like very good. And she calls it a film still. It's like a lot of things are encapsulated in there. I think it's a really impressive article of this work, and the writing is good. She calls it a film still style, and then it just made me think about how it's like a filmmaker, every single still and every single image completes this entire film. And in this, it's a single film, and each piece of like yarn is like, every frame kind of thing, and then you bring it into this like complete like moment, which is very painstaking, which I want to get to. But the difference between like kind of this, I'm dropped into as the viewer, this other one is more like VR or something, where these like fragments of these worlds, now you kind of encounter them, and those ones are more like urban in that way, like the broken fence, and then hi, thanks for coming. The broken fence, right? Something broken. All the symbols are the same in the physical work, but now we're experiencing them physically the same way you would in real life, but with these like heightened observational aspects of things. So just speaking about the difference when you choose to construct a world for us to like walk through versus an image to like kind of be implicated in.
Yeah, I think that decision is usually based on like, again, because it's the story is my driving impulse. It's like what would make sense the most for this story I'm trying to tell. So like the fence piece, for example, by making it a physical object, the main story is like the physical breaking of the fence, the bending, the twisting. It like that becomes the main part of the piece. Whereas then if I put it in like a full bigger image, it's like I have to contextualize that fence, but it's almost like I don't want all those other elements. I just want to tell a story about breaking fence, and that's it. That is the only thing I'm providing, and then the rest becomes like in that person's head. Whereas if there's a story like this bedroom one where it's like, I actually have a really specific thing. It's not just the broken fence, it's also the window, it's a bedroom. Also what kind of bedroom is it in? The lamp is broke, like it's like, so it's basically choosing based on the idea how much control I want to have, and the more control I want, I tend to push to the 2D image because it's easier. But like, it's like you can kind of fit, like if I were to make a scene like this as a sculpture, I just have to make so many things that it's like at that point, like what is the difference of seeing those sculptures from that point of view versus seeing an image of those sculptures? It's almost like at that point I am just treating it as an image, so why even make the object? Whereas when I want it to be the object, like it's about the bend, it's about the break, it's about the balance, it's about the soft versus the hard. So it's kind of, if the story is about material, it's more of a sculpture. If the story is more about like the whole scene, it lends itself more to that like screenshot photograph.
Right, and some of them are, with the interiors, they kind of like bring into this world, and I feel like some of like the fence, everything else falls away, like the acute moment of seeing the broken fence, like there's nothing else in the world, like space is just dissolved, or the piercing of the brick, it just becomes like so almost main character, like the narrative is the character or something, like the more you get into it. Okay, but calling these images, I think is like for this day and age, an image is like anything, and I know you said easier, but I think most people would argue these are like painstakingly created. Like this is not like the easy way to make an image out of thread. I have like you could have photoshopped it, right? But there's something very specific about, I think, the painstaking way that you go about your work that is very yours, but it's almost like grueling. Like these are made on a sewing machine. I mean, it's so you say easier, but I feel like can you speak to that choice? I like yarn versus sewing and that transition as well, because I know that it's somehow it's about the material, but you're compelled very much to do this. And it's not a painting, it's not a Photoshop, it's not a sketch.
So why the embroidery, basically?
Yeah. And this, and then
it's a couple things. The first kind of being, and I actually did try to start painting recently, but like I'm not really into like wet and like drying my brushes and things. I feel like I would never. So I want like my studio to be like dry. So like the sewing is dry, but then also the embroidery, I think, pushes it kind of further away from like art world and pushes it more into like storybook world. So I don't want my work to be in the context of like paintings. I want my work to be in the context of like the history of storytelling and like more like a longer timeline of just like the human instinct to tell a story. And I feel like the textile and the embroidery taps into like other histories of storytelling beyond kind of like the traditional art world. It is sort of, there's different contexts in which textiles, are produced that are not made by the elite circle that are artists. It's like people like sewing their grandma's clothes. Like it's like there is that kind of everymanness to textiles. We all know what it feels like on our skin. We all have like, a pillowcase we're sleeping on. So I think it pushes it off the wall and into like our
folk storytelling, like something humans do.
Right, yeah.
Uniquely.
More like that, more about like connecting to other people versus like I'm an artist and this is like my prestigious work on a wall. That's like oil painting and is like I don't even know what oil painting feels like. It's like we don't have that everyday connection. Not to say on oil painting, obviously, but it's just a different history of accessing. Yeah.
Right, because when you look in oil painting, then it brings up all the oil paintings of the past. But when you talk about it as the history of embroidery too, it's like that's the chosen dialogue, but also the action, because I feel like, again, the choice, the labor that goes into them, as well as that drives the medium. Because I know your metal work is newer, but it's the narrative and the story you're telling that drives you not just like, okay, I'm a metalworker.
Mhm.
Sure.
Yeah, there's a thread you follow in your story.
Definitely.
And out of the darkness that surrounds you, are you emerging from it or going into it personally?
Personally, I think emerging. Yeah, I feel like a lot of the work is usually reflective of like previous experiences. I feel like I'm not someone who like, I'm experiencing something dark and intense and then I make work about it. It's like when I'm like in that dark place, it's like making art is the last thing I'm thinking about. So it's more like, oh, now I'm like grooving. Now I can like, what was that thing I was feeling? And now I can kind of work with it more objectively.
It's the thread you follow out then.
Right, it's
Okay.
yeah, so keep pulling it and you'll get out, hopefully. But
You know, I was just curious more about the process, because, I mean, it's so methodical and time consuming. You must do like some initial sketches for composition, or do you do it on the material? Like, how does that translate?
yeah, and Hanny knows this because she's a part of every step of the way, but the planning of the piece is like as long as the executing. So I'm drawing it out pretty much entirely. There's one piece where I didn't do that, and it's like my least successful piece. So now I'm like, no, it's okay to plan everything entirely out. But yeah, everything is drawn on paper, and then I like take a photo of it, and then project it, and then I draw that on. But yeah, everything is like paints. It's like, okay, like what if the chair is on the floor in this direction, and then what I do actually is I cut out the pieces, and I'm moving them around in the scene. So it's like, I'll draw the bed, and I'm happy with how it looks, and then I sort of cut that out on a piece of paper, because everything I'm like so yeah, it's like I'm collaging my drawings together until I get the composition I like, take a photo, and then I trace that onto the fabric. But I do want to get the painstaking, I do want to talk about.
Painstaking it feels like a really important word.
Yeah, I think,
As the service that you kind of do where we get to sort of encounter these like moments.
So there's a piece on the end called A Prayer Against Forgetting, and I feel like that title, most of the piece, encapsulates what I'm hoping to get out of the painstakingness, which is a lot of these pieces, you know, it's sort of this, it's like something either just happened or it's like about to happen, but it's this kind of like instantness, and I have an impulse to kind of capture that instance because it's meaningful to me for whatever reason. And it's like, I'm trying to draw out that time by being like, this fight was like 2 minutes, but it's like, I spent like 2 months sewing this thing. So it's like, this like desperate attempt to be like, I know these moments are fleeting, but like, if I can spend hours sewing the bed sheets, then like, maybe I'll remember how they smell. You know, it's this kind of like, desperately holding on to something that is already even in the past, but like wanting to just draw it out as much as I can. A lot of my work really stems from like imagining the people around me dying. So a lot of it is sort of like holding on to like the memories of them while they're alive. I mean,
I had a next question because someone already mentioned it, and it's also in the Chronogram article, which everyone should read, which I was going to quote just to enter this, because what she writes, Gilbert takes us through morbid moments that function as stages without actors, where eerie scenery devoid of humans suggests that humans are still implicated, which is what she said, but it reminded me that like, it made me think of the word loneliness, but also the opposite, right? Like, what does it then have to do with kind of relationship to others or self, or just relationship in general? Right. And you were kind of getting started on that, like this feeling of like loss, and potential loss, or the future.
I think it's like anticipated loss is maybe kind of the like point of view I'm coming at it from, which is like not necessarily like a healthy way to move throughout your day or your relationships. But I feel like it's just something I think about all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think I have so much more to say.
But it makes me also think about like everything in its opposite, because on the one hand, it's a fear of death and loss, and on the other hand, it's like cherishing a moment or letting life really be felt, like a fleeting moment where the stars are such, and the headlights are hitting exactly that point, and the volcano is erupting at exactly that moment, and the shadow is hitting exactly there, and the lightning is striking exactly in this moment. So much of it too is just, to me, appreciating the fullness of the moments, which include fear, horror, and terror. And I mean, the sublime is this beautiful thing that is just so terrifying, right? So that's all. I'm just now talking about how it makes me feel, but I'd say that.
But it's contrasted with the delicacy and it's just technically, you look at it and you go, wow. And so, as well, it's as well as, because there's something of the horror. There's a light on in the window. It's like, and the leaf is being skewered by the winds and by the worms that ate it. And then there are these lilies. It pushes and pulls all the time while you're watching it, but I'm constantly drawn back to the delicacy of the actual stitch and what it describes.
Yeah, and these are, the embroidery works are the newer ones. I'm moving away from the punch needle, partially because of that kind of delicacy, because I think with these pieces, it pushes the kind of like video game and kind of more like actioniness, whereas the embroidery, there's like the subtlety and the kind of like, there's a way that even just like the thread shining and catching light in different ways. And yeah, that is kind of like more exciting to me now than the like pop of like the super saturated yarn.
But also the wonderful things that are happening, for example, the water. You know, it's like, it's kind of taking off all by itself.
Yeah.
It's not even belonging. It just is layer upon layer upon layer. It's absolutely fabulous.
Thanks.
I'm curious, the hand versus a machine in the work that you're doing. Where is the line on that for you? I'm so curious about your process.
Right. So I have a couple different techniques, but they only have these are all machine. But so the bigger pieces are with like a tufting machine, which is basically like a drill. And I have this whole big piece of fabric stretched, and I'm working from the back, and the drill is basically pushing yarn into the holes. One at a time. So I'm moving it like freehand, like drawing with the yarn basically.
You start like with the dark lines and then fill in?
I usually start with the lines and then I fill in by color. So like I'll fill in like, and because it's all usually planned out from the beginning, it's like I'll do the lines, and I always do the easiest thing first. I don't know how people do the hardest thing first, but so yeah, I'll do like the sky. Like I'll do like that line of something and then just like fill it in, and then I'll outline the next section and then fill that in. And then with these pieces, I'm using a regular sewing machine, and then I have like a quilting foot or like a free motion foot, and the needle is going up and down, and I'm moving the fabric around. So it's like I have the line drawn, and then by hand I'm doing it. So it's not like an embroidery machine where I have it like programmed. The needle is literally just up and down, and I'm like literally just like, you know, like this is like a month of me sitting there just like going like this. Yeah.
And do you unravel it, like, or you're like, oh, I'm not happy with this?
It's hard to, it depends on, sometimes it is hard. A lot of the times it's easier to just like blast over it actually. So like this piece with the corn stalks, I actually did the corn in like 3 different colors, so they're like so bulging up, because it's usually only once I finish something that I'm like, wait, that's actually not the color I was supposed to use. It's like, I can't rip those all out. So either like blast over or like work with what I got. But the bigger ones, those I would pull out the thread, because they're not really locked in until it's glued. But this, especially once it's like pretty solid, it's not worth it to rip it out. So it's easier to just kind of go over. That's why I plan them so much, because it's like, it sucks to have to redo something.
For some reason, I'm picturing a medieval monk doing an illustrated manuscript, and I wonder if there's something comforting in that kind of precise, even though it's a moment in time, it's like such an expanded, it's so precise, and it's like, I don't know, kind of, you know what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, there's, I feel like, two parts of the practice. One is like the creative planning, drawing, sketching, and then once it's laid out, it's like pretty much pure labor. I mean, obviously I'm deciding certain things, but it's like even though it sounds like hell, like this black, like that was like the best part, because like I'm not thinking, I'm just like sitting there, like, and it becomes this like, I mean, it's kind of like like I'm doing it really fast, but it's like, it's like this like labor kind of practice that is like, frankly, easier than like the creative part. So I do also like that because the pieces take so long to plan. If I executed them in like a week, it's like, oh God, I have to like plan another piece. So it's like, it kind of buys time to have to like think of a new piece.
How did you know to pick up the needle?
Just an impulse. I mean, I think I was studying sculpture in school, and honestly, the reason why I wanted to be an artist, or like I was studying film and I had a contemporary art class, and Robert Morris, who's like obviously very famous, but he has this like fabric piece that's just like fabric hanging on a wall. And I was like, oh, that's the story I want to tell. I want to tell like the story of like the weight of things, and I felt like fabric was so like bodily in a way without it being like too body. Like I feel like when I see sculptures that are like kind of like silicone-y and kind of like too fleshy, it puts it in this like scientific world, but like I wanted to still more be in another world. So yeah, to me like the fabric was this like the first like the body. But I know Jen, you're asking, having your hand up.
Talk about your color palette.
The color palette.
Black and white versus color. There is color versus color, and it's just a statement, but something you were saying earlier. I just got this flash of the Twilight Zone. There's an episode where he's the last person on Earth, and I used to have this fantasy as a kid of wanting to be the last person on Earth. It was so weird, but I was like, wouldn't that be awesome? I would be, I do anything I want. And there was this balance between loneliness and exalting and like freedom, woo! And the Twilight Zone hits that place of like realizing, like, oh my God, I actually am alone.
Yeah.
Like forever. So those are two questions: being
Yeah.
alone and freedom, and then the color palette.
Yeah, I think the being alone freedom like definitely resonates. I mean, I feel like it's that like I'm finally on the road, it's a road trip, and like I can go anywhere I want, but then it's like it is me alone in my car, and I'm like just following my own lights of the headlight. So I think there is that play between being alone and being like free to explore, but then it's like there is this kind of trade-off of loneliness that comes with that. And then in terms of the color palette, partially also why I think I'm drawn to the textile and embroidery stuff is I'm not like mixing the colors. Like I'm choosing the colors that already exist, and I like that limitation. And then there's no beef for that, but in terms of like the black and white versus the color, there's two sides to that. The first being, these were the first pieces I made when I switched from the embroidery. I have like a lot more of this style of work. So I've been doing this for a couple years. And when I wanted to switch to embroidery, I knew like shading, I wanted to really learn shading, because all of these works, the lighting is pretty flat and there's not a lot of like variation in tone. And I was just like too overwhelmed to do color yet. So I was like, let me just like figure out like how to get range in color with just grayscale. So it was partially just a way to kind of ease into this kind of next chapter of working, or like elevated version, or at least like I see it as elevated. And then also really wanting to tap into that like noir, old movie, like photograph. I mean, these pieces were started after I had this like photo book of actually the Lyndhurst Manor, which is in the Hudson Valley, which like this piece is kind of based on. But yeah, I was looking at a lot of photos, and again, I was so interested in that, like the taking of the photograph, that I feel like the black and white helps to highlight and push that like photo language. So it works in that way as well. But then trying to hold on to that framing. So then when I switched to the color, I knew I wanted to still highlight like the viewer and like the framing of the work. So it's very much like I have the figure for the first time with like the light behind us and the super prescriptive truck point of view was a way to kind of hold on to that like framing without the black and white, if that makes sense.
I'm kind of struck by, with the sculpture, what you're crafting there are design technologies of torture.
Some of them, yeah.
There is an implied relationship of human beings
For sure.
to each other. So I'm wondering if you could say a little bit more about what you're exploring on technology.
Technology, yeah, I think there's also like, just adding on another element to that, there's also references to different eras of technology. I have, you know, the more modern stuff, the trucks, the power lines, which to me, I'm evoking this like American, you know, for me, America is all about like driving. And then the older technology of this kind of like old world Gothic architecture that really we don't have in the US for obvious reasons. So, I mean, we have, you know, Gothic revival, you know, like it's so I'm kind of blurring these technologies from different timelines for different reasons, but one of them being wanting to kind of play with that, both there's an instance in time, but also this instance is like all the time together captured. So it's like this sort of junkyard scene here with the power line going through the tree and then the like fortress in the middle. Those are like equally, it's like it's almost like I'm condensing the time in which they were put there, that like someone would throw out a toilet the same day they would throw out their like used guillotine or guillotine. So I like having those timelines mashed together. And then in terms of like the torture devices, well, those are like kind of so a lot of this work is multiple bodies of work that I'm just sort of presenting together because it's such a big space. So the torturing work was very much about like this relationship I was in where I just like, to me that's what a relationship was at the time. So that was just like the work. Yeah. And then so the work is, it's less torturous now, and it's actually more, all my work tends to be about whatever romantic relationship I'm in, and so these more like kind of, I see as more sentimental and less tortury works are about like the dynamics in our relationship, which is the kind of like fear of loss and like holding on to time, and like this romantic domestic scene, but this kind of like the creeping in horrors of like death are like kind of permeating. So it's just another, it's like my new fear is now like loss as opposed to before it was like getting through the day. Yeah, which is better, I think.
It's life without its tortures.
Right, well, it's love without loss.
Like, right.
What is it? Grief is the opposite of loss. Maybe? No. Grief is the opposite of love? Something, no.
What Jen was saying made me think, this seems really simple, but I don't know, it just never occurred in exactly this way, of this like doubling of the witnessing, like that idea of being at the end of the world and you're the only person. So you're the witness. And then there's some layering there. I'm having this realization where it's like, we're witnessing the witness, like the headlights are kind of the witness, then you bring it to us that we're the witness, but there's this aloneness, but like idea of witnessing. Huh?
You're doing dialectics, Hegel's dialectics.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like, but yeah, it's like almost, right, lighthearted, or that like satirical thing, which I don't know, I think that's like where art comes from, right? Like theater are ways to say the difficult things of inevitabilities of life, being able to say them in ways that go outside of just it, right? Like that's the nature of things. But I was trying to get onto the witness, where it got really philosophical. I'm like the witness of the witness of the witness. But it feels something about that, right? Like.
Well, I do have a piece that has 3 like consecutive hills, and on the furthest hill there's like footprints, and then on the closer one there's a film camera. So it's like I did a piece where the camera's included in the frame, and then so we're witnessing the camera's witnessing those footprints that are then witnessing this other thing. So yeah, there are pieces where I push that kind of layered witnessing more so.
Right, or like the windshield, or the right. But then I also feel like as a viewer, or I don't know, experiencer, like as a witness, or it having the encounter, and that like scary thing, I guess, like in life, if you accidentally witness a crime, like that sucks, because now you're a witness, and now you have to probably tell someone, or you say something, or go to court or something.
Well, it's almost kind of like part of being an artist is like the desire to be witnessed yourself. Like I have a desire for like my feelings to be witnessed by other people. Like I can make these and never show them, but it's like clearly there's some desire to be like seen in that way. So it's like all art ultimately is about, I mean not all about, but like there's inherently, especially as an artist who exhibits their work, like there must be some impulse to like be seen with that point of view. So it's almost like if I have to feel these things, I want like other people to also see them and feel it, and then, like see me as a result. Right, and then you very much bring us into it, which feels like very inclusive. And then I don't know what you guys think, but I think like using one itself as an artist, like your experience is a really intentional, painstaking exploration of the human experience. Like I don't know, like you can't really get it wrong if what you're going through, like someone else, channeling it into something that we can all, but kind of witness.
Witness or be repelled by.
Or be repelled by,
and
or run from.
It gets to be that I don't want to follow you into the dark there. And your embroidery and storytelling is diverting from what is a little bit to either expand reality or to lie, one or the other, right? Embroidery and storytelling, and I'm looking at that, my own life, as I look at your work.
I feel like that's, the goal for me isn't necessarily to like comfort the viewer or like entice them into this like sweet promise. It's almost like, it's a challenge, and it's almost, I mean, I love like horror movies, and that's like definitely in my work, but it's like not everyone likes horror movies, and that's fine. It's like it's almost like finding your audience. Like there are people who are like interested in that, like scratching that itch they have. So yeah, I think it's like it's okay to have a very specific point of view that is maybe like off-putting to some people, and that's like I definitely don't like. Yeah, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore, but yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the fingerprints on here? Because you were talking about
Yeah, we had talked about that.
And that kind of reference what you were saying.
Yeah, so as we've mentioned a couple times, there's sort of the remnants of people and not so much people themselves. And yeah, in this piece, I was including all these little details of what I thought would be like hands, so like the faucet, you can imagine like, twisting, the faucet's on, so that means like someone's hand was there. The scissors are open, and then I find like the fingerprints on the mirror, and this sort of, desire to hold on to these moments of like, the candle just went out, there's still fog on the mirror from the shower, so this scene is still very much like active, yet there's like no one actually there, it's just like the evidence of it. So I originally, we were talking about the other day, which is I originally had like really long streaks of fingerprints, and I like asked a friend what she thought, and she was like, it's too much, it's like too hoary. But now I wish I kind of kept those in because people don't notice it as much, and I feel like that's really like the last grasping of whoever was there. But then also being like, it's okay to push, I think, yeah, I have a tendency to like ask people like, is this too melodramatic? Is this too much of like just a horror movie screenshot? And like just wanting to trust myself more to be like, it's okay to be that explicit in the work. I feel like I'm not someone who's subtle, and then sometimes I'm like, no, I should be subtle here. It's like, no, why why go 90% of the way? You know, I should always just go all the way with the point I'm trying to make. So yeah, I wish I had like, yeah, these like streaks of the fingerprints.
Oh yeah, the
for that like
streaks.
desperate like hand.
By the way, I feel like when you ask me that, I never think that what I'm gonna say. I just think you need a person to remind yourself your own,
It wasn't your
own
friend,
self.
yeah, it was a
No, but in general, like, because you need, right? That's the gift of being habit, like to get out of the echo chamber for a second. Because right, these characters, like that's a character to me. If it's an entire film made of thread in a single frame, the characters are those prints, and you know these heightened detailed aspects become the message that comes through all of the work.
The same way you mentioned oil paint that has a history, so you bring the whole of history of art.
Right.
Embroidery has a history too.
Yeah, definitely.
It's very female.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a kind of, when I looked at it, I was like, oh, this is embroidery. But so the gentleness of what I think of as embroidery, given the history of it, sucks you right in. And then you go, oh, but the scissors are open. The candle didn't burn the house down. The water is still flowing. Is it going to overflow? You know, so it's a really pleasant trip, and it starts in a pleasant place, which is embroidery.
Right. Well, I think also if they were a painting or a photograph, I think there would be no softness. It would just be like so stark and kind of one note, and frankly kind of like you'd read it so quickly, or it's like, oh, like scary painting, like, but it's like, no, it's like embroidery. There is that like just more complicated reading of the work. And then yeah, there's like also like gendered history with like the embroidery, and then also like the metal work, which I'm trying to combine. This fall, I'm in this residency where I'm really focusing on like combining the metal and the embroidery as opposed to just like putting them next to each other, because I want to sort of push the decorativeness of metal, because I feel like, you know, metal has like I'm interested in decorativeness, so yeah, wanting to kind of push that more with the metal and connect it to the embroidery, because there is like, yeah, this fence that's like maybe kind of violent, there's still like these delicate soft curves and moments of just like, just adding layers to the feeling, basically.
I was just going to comment on how big of a difference it makes in the story that's implied between the hand streaking, the mirror, and just the light touch. Like, to me, there's something almost more horrifying to the light touch, you know, with the water running, especially in conversation with that, and just, talk about subtlety.
Well, if like that is why it takes so long to plan the pieces, because it's like one little difference really does change the whole meaning. You know, even I'm happy that you caught the wormholes in the leaf. It's like if the leaf was just on the ground, it's totally different. It being pierced is one thing, and then it also have been eaten. It's like there's all these other timelines and like incidences I'm adding to all the details. So there is like this painstaking planning process where, yeah, I'm considering that. Like, what does it mean if the person is, or it's also like I could have had the candle still lit, which would then be like this sort of like threat, as you said, like it didn't actually burn down the house, but if the candle was there, because there's fire in the other pieces, you could imagine it burning down. But it's like I didn't want that to be the instigator. If anything, I want it to be like a red herring. Like you look for the candle, and it's like actually that's not.
The wax is long, so it was burning for a long time.
Yeah.
So
there was a risk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The candle's burning now, isn't it?
Yeah, the candle in the sculpture is burning now. They're not burning down.
Compositionally, like these feel like very like Renaissance, based on like how much detail and information there is. Maybe less so spatially in terms of like depth, but all the information you're including with the objects. So I kind of read it more. I go to that maybe more so than like we talk about like we're worried that might feel like a horror screenshot or something. I think of like Albert, like Dürer, maybe more like Northern Renaissance or something like Germanic, and then like I talked And the embroidery is interesting because it seems like it leans on painting a lot, but there's also like tapestry during Renaissance that are also like super detailed as well. It's not really a question, but
No, I see that. I hear what you're saying. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's this like Baroque staging, or like there's this like, yeah, it's like this like staged kind of thing that's very Renaissance-y.
Which then also makes me, which is all that, and it's also got this playful thing, right? So like back to your title, the pretend, because there's this like, it's so real and it's all these things, and then it's also like this incredibly sophisticated, like childlike, like the softness or the trucks or like the kind of toy quality that's in some of the sculptures more up here. Right, like the make-believe, and it's fiction, but there's something so hyper dense and real about it as well. Like as if you really had these experiences and that's how you can convey them.
Right, like there was a volcano on the road trip.
Right, there was actually a volcano. The gender, I haven't thought too much about that, but that like with like these cliches like boys like trucks and girls do sewing, and I don't know if that's something you think about.
It's something I think about. It's something I never talk about because I feel like it's like the stories themselves aren't necessarily about that. That's then where it's like my artistic, that's where it differs
It's
from
sort of
being
implies.
film. Yeah, it's like, I am, as much as I say, it's like, oh, I'm just telling a story, I am also interested in these materials for their like art historical context and their like gendered context and all these things. But it's just like more fun to talk about the other things, and I feel like except because it's like because the story isn't like here's my answer to that question.
Right.
It's like I don't bring it up because I don't have the answer of like what does it mean to like use embroidery in the mod. Like it's like I'm not actually engaging with that dialogue. I'm just sort of like putting it out there as like a thing you can read into if you want.
Right.
But like
It's
I
not your
haven't
message.
figured it out, so like
Right.
I don't know what I'm saying about it really.
Right,
But it's
and
like
you're
there.
alive in the times that we're in, so, you know, historically, if you were to look back at this work, it's almost like how someone would analyze it later, like, oh, in those times, gender, like, was less of a focus, right? Or there's always something that we're gonna take. Anyone else have any more questions?
I just wanted to say that I really appreciate what you were describing before with like collapsing the timelines and witnessing the witness who just witnessed the witness. I feel like there's an intergenerational dynamic to that.
Definitely. We're laughing because I was gonna talk about, but yeah, my boyfriend's a lot older than me, so there's a connection between this like fear of loss and then like combining timelines and like putting things together that are like different references, but they make sense because I've like told this story this way. So yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, but yeah, there is this like generational concern, and like I'm like keeping like tabs on like what era I'm in. Like it's like I very much like looking at the timeline of things for sure.
Thank you.
Making sure to bring the threads all together in one space.
Yeah.
Where's the work going?
The work is going definitely like in this direction. Definitely interested in color, and I was actually speaking with someone yesterday here, and I shared a concern, which was like it is kind of repetitive. It's like it's a truck and a castle, but he was like, but I still want to keep doing that, and he was reassuring that like keep tapping into that vein. He felt like I wasn't quite done yet, and I don't feel done yet. So I think the work is just going further in. I don't think it's like drastically shifting anytime soon. It feels like I feel like I kind of only just really got in my stride with these pieces here. I feel like I was really stuck with the rugs, and I feel like it was holding me back, and now I'm like finding my groove, so I don't want to throw it all away yet. I have more embroidery to do.
Right, and actually, that's an important question because not everyone knows this, but this is work from over a few years,
Yeah,
right?
3 years, 3-4 years.
And the order of things, it's not laid out in that way, so I don't know if
Right.
you wanna talk about that, cause I know the metal being the newest, or if you
Mhm.
wanna just like walk everyone through
The timeline,
roughly.
Yeah, I don't know how interesting that is to hear, but
No,
yeah,
I like the timeline,
the
right.
foam sculptures were a little older, and the metal are newer. And it is because I do have this desire to blur the embroidery decorative history and the metal decorative. Like I just started
Mhm.
forging for the first time, which is like, you know, bending metal. So yeah, the direction is kind of pushing the metal and maybe the like broken pointy, because even like these pieces like this tower isn't actually broken, but then like the crane over there is broken. So I want to push more like points and the metal and the curving metal and the embroidery and seeing if I can combine them, because now the wall pieces and the sculptures are kind of separate. And even, not to bring this up again, but in that review she was like, there's two shows, like there's like the wall work and the sculptures.
Yes.
And I've always known that, but then like hearing someone say that who's a complete stranger is like, okay, I do really have these separate things, and I think it would be interesting to combine them. But also I don't abstract things very often, so I don't really have a desire to make some like abstract sculpture image. Like I do like an image and a sculpture. So I don't know if I'll combine them, but I am thinking about it more so, because the sculptures do have an image effect. I mean, like even this one back here on the back wall, like it's an installation because you can only see it from one side. You know, it's not a standalone sculpture in the middle of the room. So the sculptures push towards images, but maybe the images could push towards sculpture would be different. I don't know.
But nonetheless, it's evident that the storytelling is what drives like all these material progressions.
Right.
Like these ways to tell the story, no matter what. But it was the foam and then the area of the rugs and to the embroidery and the metal. Kind of?
Yeah.
Embroidery and metal being newer.
Yeah, definitely.
I know that's like somewhat boring probably to you, but sometimes I don't know. I sometimes think it's interesting how one thing evolves to the other.
I just wanted to say that I think it is interesting to hear about the timeline of the work, but it's all you.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter.
I know.
To me.
Right, yeah.
It's all you, and it's all different parts of you and your history and what you're doing, so I see no issues with that.
Well, that's what happens when you do like the same thing over and over in different materials. Overall works ultimately, it's all just bricks and something's broken.
Something broken. And I think it conveys that a lot of the questions came through that were things I wanted to ask, and the article in the chronogram, which again is, I just think it's a really great article. I wrote it down. Taliesin Thomas.
And I believe it's just digital, so.
Yeah.
It's not.
So you can just give it a quick Google, Matthew Gilbert chronogram.
It does get into the next issue, we'll see, I don't know, but it's definitely online.
It comes up, but I think it's well written, but it's also a testament to, and everyone today's questions, to this like painstaking process that you bring us, and like you delivered us with these like open-ended like questions and feelings that are like universal and well expressed, and that you really deliver that to us. I didn't have to read most of my questions because you guys have some and some better ones, so that was really great. Is there anything you want to say that we didn't
We covered
provoke?
it. Yeah, thank you for coming. We had good weather today, which is nice. But yeah, the weather recently feels apt for the show.
Right.
No warning yesterday.
Smoke and the flower. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of beautiful.
Well, you guys are welcome to hang out,